Hello and welcome to my mid-year book freakout tag. I will have the original creators linked down below, as well as all of my usual Black Lives Matter movement support links and that kind of thing. But just a quick shout out before I get into the meat of this video. My lovely friend Candice from the channel Curious Language here on YouTube and also over on Instagram has produced some absolutely beautiful hand-painted floral bookmarks. I will insert a picture here for you from her Instagram, and she is selling these over on her Instagram to raise money for Colour of Change, which is a charity that supports the Black Lives Matter movement and other important anti-racist movements. So if you are US based, which I know a large portion of my audience is, please do head over to her Instagram page and consider supporting her sale. All of the proceeds of the sale of these bookmarks is going to the charity. So it's a really great cause, and you get a beautiful bookmark out of it as well. And as you can see, her artwork is absolutely beautiful. So please do head over there. I will have her Instagram linked down in the description bar as well. So I did the mid-year book freakout tag last year as well, so I thought that it would be fun to do it again this year. I've seen it going around a lot on YouTube as well, so let's dive in. The first question is the best book that you have read so far in 2020, and for me this is The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. This is a science fiction story told in quite a contemporary style voice that follows Ellie in a world that has been taken over by an alien species that is enslaving the human race and has banned all forms of expression. But Ellie is running an illegal library, and we also follow a character who is an alien that was created in a lab and therefore should not have emotion but has a love for music. And I won't say anything else about what this story is about, but the world building, the characters, the emotion, the relationships in this story are fantastic. I highly recommend picking this one up. The next question is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2020, and for me this is Obsidio by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I started the Illuminae Files series last year and I finished it off this year, and this conclusion was explosive. If you don't know what this series is about, we follow humans who are fleeing a planet that has been attacked by terrorists, and as they are fleeing they are being chased by those terrorists. This story is told in a multimedia format, so we have logs, we have camera footage, we have text messages, we have recorded conversations, all that kind of thing, and that makes for a really fun reading experience. The audiobook is full cast, so I recommend that as well, but it's also really fun to read the multimedia format as well, and I just had a really great time. I was really satisfied with the conclusion to this story. The next question is a new release that you haven't yet read but that you want to, and for this one there were quite a few books to choose from, but I'm going to mention The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Loads of people have read this already. I've seen a lot of negative views about this one. Unfortunately, I am quite apprehensive about going into this one, but I just absolutely loved the original Hunger Games trilogy, and so I'm really looking forward to being back in this world. Then, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of 2020? And it was really difficult to narrow this down, to be honest. My ultimate answer to this question is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, which is the 4th book in the Stormlight archive. It's out in November. I have it pre-ordered. I'm super excited for this one. But I did also want to mention Loveless by Alice Oseman, which is an Arrow Ace contemporary story, and also The Reckless Afterlife of Harriet Stoker by Lauren James, which is her first foray into fantasy writing. She usually writes science fiction, and this one is a paranormal fantasy about a ghost, and I love ghost stories, so really looking forward to that one too. Then we have the biggest disappointment of 2020 so far, and for this one I have to say The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is a science fiction mystery mashup story. So Evelyn Hardcastle dies and our protagonist is reliving the day in the body of a different guest in the house, trying to solve the mystery of who killed Evelyn Hardcastle. And I actually really enjoyed the story. I will mention in a future video how the whole Groundhog Day type trope doesn't necessarily work particularly well for me. It didn't bother me too much in this one because the perspective was different. Sort of. It's the same person, but they're living the day through the perspective of a different body. So that made it much more enjoyable for me. However, there is some serious fat phobia in this book, along with ageism and other kinds of prejudice, and I didn't particularly enjoy that element, and it really marred the experience of this book for me, sadly. Next up is the biggest surprise for me this year, and I'm going to go with 1,000 Beginnings and Endings, which is an anthology edited by Ellen O and Elsie Chapman, but of course written by a number of authors, and this is a collection of myths and legend retellings and fable retellings by Asian authors focused on Asian myths and legends, etc. And I haven't read an anthology for a very long time. The last time I read an anthology was in school. It was required reading, and it was mostly a poetry anthology, which I appreciate is very different, but I never really got into anthologies. But Kayla from the channel Books and Lala really inspired me to give anthologies a try again, and I really loved this one. It was so impactful, and even though the stories were short, they were just so heartfelt and meaningful, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one to the extent that I've actually purchased 2 other anthologies. One of them I have read most of, the other one I haven't picked up yet, but I am really interested too. So this has ignited a love of anthologies, which is surprising. Next up is my favourite new author for 2020, and this is a bit of a difficult one for me to answer because I have discovered a lot of new authors so far this year, but I haven't necessarily read multiple books by those authors, so it's difficult to say if they're a new favourite, but I am going to go with Shannon Messenger because this year I have discovered the Keeper of the Lost Cities series by her, and I have fallen head over heels in love with that series. I am obsessed. I haven't read any of the books this month because I'm trying to eke it out a little bit because we're not going to have another book in the series until later in the year, but I'm loving it, and I love the way that Shannon Messenger writes. It's so easy to follow. I mean, it's middle grade, so that's part of it, but it's easy to follow but easy to fall into, and the characters are amazing. I love her character work, so I think that's who I'm going with. The next question is newest fictional crush, and I don't have one. That's not a thing that I do, so moving on. Newest favourite character. I'm a character driven reader, so it was really difficult to narrow down as well, but I'm actually going to go with Eugenides from the Queen's Thief series by Megan Wallen Turner because he's just cheeky and interesting and different, and I enjoy reading from his perspective. He's really clever but pretends that he's really not, and he puts on a lot of faces as necessary to carry out his thieving, and I just find him a really entertaining character to read from. Next up is a book that has made you cry, and I don't cry at media an awful lot anyway, and no books have made me cry to my memory so far this year, but the book that was the most intense, I think, was The Test by Sylvain Novelle, which is a short story about, I don't want to say too much, about a man who's taking a citizenship test in the UK, and it goes to a lot of intense places. It's very, very short. I really recommend that you pick it up. It didn't make me cry or anything, but it made me feel a lot of intense emotion. Next up, a book that made you happy, and I have to say Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. I would say any of the volumes of Heartstopper. This is just the one that I've read this year. This series is just so wholesome and always makes me smile, and what more can I say? And the next question was the most beautiful book that you've acquired so far this year, and I couldn't narrow this down to one, to be honest with you. So the first one I'm going to mention is this Waterstones exclusive edition of The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant. It's got this beautiful foiling on it, and I can't ever resist foiling. We have blue sprayed edges, the end papers are stunning, and also we have this beautiful foiled hidden cover. So that one is really, really pretty. But then I also have The Mermaid, the Witch and the Sea by Maggie Tokuda Hall, which has the most beautiful illustrated cover I think I've seen so far this year. It's just absolutely stunning, and I don't even think that the detail of it is picking up on camera as well as it should. I do have a picture of this one over on my Instagram, so I'd recommend going over there just to see the detail of the illustration on this cover. It's beautiful. And then the final question is the book that I absolutely have to read by the end of 2020, and honestly I can't narrow this down even at all. Basically everything. Everything I have on my shelves I'm desperate to read. There is never ever enough time to read all the books that I want to read. I started off this year with a physical TBR of 69 books. I think I'm somewhere around the 83 mark now, even though I wanted to get that number down this year. Somehow, even though I've read 90 books so far this year, I still managed to increase my physical TBR rather than decrease it. So let me know if you want me to do another physical TBR video. I'm thinking I might do that video twice a year. So I did it at the end of 2019, so I might do it in the middle of 2020 and then at the end of 2020 as well. So do let me know if you would be interested in that, but I think I am going to film that video. Once again, please do head over to Candace's Instagram page and buy one of her bookmarks or more if you can. If you can't afford one of the bookmarks but you still want to contribute to the Black Lives Matter movement in some way, then like I said at the start, all of those resources will be down in my description bar as well, including videos that you can watch on YouTube completely for free, and you are donating to the cause through the AdSense revenue of those videos as well. So that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks, bye!